Well, the thing about awakening, when you wake up to, it's not like a light switch is flipped in your head and suddenly you have all these abilities that present. It's the light switch. You're actually standing in a deep, dark cave, and you have struck a match to find if there's any candles around you. And you've always been standing in the cave. Like, all of this is there. It's in your head. It's a part of who you are. But awakening isn't a one-time event. You strike that match and you realize that there's more to the world than you gave yourself credit, than you've been taught, than you wanted to believe. And you light the first candle, and all that reveals is that there is more cave and many more candles than you could possibly have imagined. It's just this constant process of unfolding. And it's a challenge because we live in a society that makes it so tremendously hard to accept our own capabilities. You're constantly told that's your imagination. No, you shouldn't believe in that. Oh, that's all hokey. That's ridiculous. And it doesn't help that there are definitely people out there who take advantage of other people and present themselves as more psychic than they are, more gifted than they are, and you can tell that all they are is charlatans. And it makes it so much harder then for anybody who has legitimate abilities to accept what they are, to accept that there is some legitimate experience to this stuff. So, I mean, most of us, here in the Western world, I mean, it's fumbling toward self-awareness and some sense of empowerment and validation. So yeah, awakening's a complicated thing.
I said once that a lot of the real psychics are not going to want to be out and about and in public. They'd like to hide it. Not all of them.
Yeah, it varies from person to person. I mean, what I will say is, always keep your bullshit meter primed. And if it seems like someone is far more invested in telling you how awesome they are, rather than legitimately trying to help or to educate, take that for what it's worth.
I agree.
But at the same time, one of the hard parts is sometimes somebody's lying, but the person that they're lying to is themselves. And so they really think that, and maybe somebody somewhere along the line said, you're a special snowflake and you're sensitive. And they've totally made themselves believe that they are really the most psychic person on the planet. And when the dog farts, it's a ghost. That's actually based off of something. Don't even.
Oh no, based on true events?
But not every dog fart is a ghost. Well, but not every tiny little thing.
I've never heard that
But you know somebody like that. I mean, everybody knows somebody like that who is convinced, like, once they get it in their head that they're psychic, suddenly everything is metaphysical, is woo-woo, like, you can't have a door accidentally blow shut when it's really obviously the window. That's dead Uncle Charlie.
Wait, will you say it again?
What, not every dog fart is a ghost? Apparently I am vastly entertaining. Well, just because you want to delve into, the weird, the paranormal, the occult, doesn't mean that, you can't do it with a skeptical mindset. And skeptical doesn't necessarily mean that you don't believe in anything. If you go back to, like, the origin of the skeptics as a type of Greek philosophy, it was more show me. I want to see. I want to experience for myself before I believe what somebody is telling me. Mm. And for a true skeptical approach to something, you go in with no assumption that it is either true or untrue. You want to experience it for yourself. It's a little bit closer to what I think most people understand as agnostic at this point, where they don't necessarily believe in God as presented by most religions, but they don't necessarily disbelieve. They want to experience it themselves. Mm-hmm. There's nothing wrong with doubting, and actually I strongly recommend, with your experiences, always question. Always look for all the other options, and some days it's just the dog farting.
What's your tagline? Seek your truth, right?
Yeah. As she tries desperately to keep a straight face for that.
I just like hearing you say fart and then talking about a dog farting. I just love it.
So, For people listening, how you went from crazy college student who sent me a wild email about her boyfriend being possessed to pet grad student who people have now heard about for years, who's been my student for years. I've lost track of how many years, 4 or 5, whatever. You did something really ballsy, and actually something that not a lot of people are going to do, because I run, well, I am not the only one who runs. I started an event back in October of 2000, and my group, House Kheperu, we collectively put this on every year, and we've done it since 2000, and it is a 3-day weekend of classes and lectures, and it's the best way to describe it is the convergence of psychology and religious studies and metaphysics and magic, philosophy, sociology, where all of this converges on the topic of energy work and psychic phenomenon. Not necessarily 100% from the stance of believers. It's just people, and often intellectuals, come together to talk about it and share their different techniques. I'm really proud of the caliber of presenters we've attracted, because they're almost all professionals in their fields. So we've had police officers presenting on the paranormal and law enforcement. We have had college professors, people who have degrees in psychology and psychiatrists, therapists. Father Bob came and chit-chatted as well. So all kinds of really interesting people. But one of the first books that I had published was on psychic vampires, so the majority of people know it as a vampire convention. So cue normal blonde little college student deciding to come up and meet the vampires. Because why not?
I felt like I didn't have any more options. Actually,
oh great, we were the last possible option.
Why else would I have driven all the way to Ohio from Kentucky to hang out with vampires, who I was actually a little bit afraid of, though you would not have known it. Now that you know me...
Oh, I'm so intimidating.
Well, okay, and at the time, the only person I knew that also read your work said that you guys were scary and you were all going to wear black, and that if I wore color, then I was going to have a target on my head.
Not exactly, but definitely, well, black. Okay, yeah, if the cape fits, I'll wear it.
Okay, when I walked in, the security guard asked me point blank what I was doing there. I'm not even kidding.
There might be a certain look among
He said,
some of my friends.
"You don't look like you belong here. What are you doing here?" Literally.
Okay, that's fair.
Then I was like, well, I experience weird things and I need help. And he said, you had to come all the way here for help. But I remember, though, when I first walked in, and it was my first exposure to intense energy, and I didn't know anything about energy really at the time. I knew that my fingers would tingle if I, worked on it really hard, or if I was in yoga and I really tried. But I remember walking in, and I remember thinking there was something wrong with me, because it felt like the entire building was pulsing. Mm-hmm. And I remember my first ritual that I did with you guys, I literally felt like ants had crawled from my toes to my head, and I had to go find help. But for somebody who had no context, I thought that there was something really wrong with me.
Yeah, I guess being so very used to those sensations that you get when you're doing intense energy work, and the fact that you're all the capillaries and all the blood vessels will expand in your hands, and your hands get really hot, and everything starts to get hot, and you can feel it tingling up and down. It's very electric.
Normal girl thought that I was having a meltdown, some sort of physical problem.
Well, and then you did burst a blood vessel in your eye, which was a little more extreme a reaction than many things that I've seen.
That was the ritual.
Yeah. To be fair, we had gone quite some time without somebody hitting the floor and being so overwhelmed. And you're an unusual case. You were the first, or you were among several unusual cases of someone who, as far as your exposure to psychic stuff, you feel it very physically, and you almost immediately also have physical manifestations of your reactions. And I'm used to people. And I'm really used to my immediate circle, where we're so accustomed to it that we're just kind of not a big deal. Walk into the most crazy haunted house and you're like, I think I might notice this.
My eye bled.
Yeah, your eye bled. I was a little concerned.
Like something out of some sort of scary movie.
And never mind the speaking in tongues, because that was a special thing too. We'll probably get into that, because that's really interesting. And it was intriguing because as somebody with a Christian background, you at least, especially Christian in the South, had a little context for the idea of speaking in
Yes,
tongues.
yes, but I had wanted to speak in tongues my entire life and it never happened to me. I'd never had a religious ecstatic experience. Like I was like, why am I, what's wrong with me? Why is everybody else doing it and I'm not? And they literally walk into your group and then here I go.
Yeah, and I spent pretty much the rest of that one babysitting you and keeping you out of people's way because you were just, whew, out of your head. Well, you were.
Oh, my life is so weird.